that, if you have a question back at that, bring her literature. We were actually just watching something today. We were watching the FAFSA. They were talking about how last year there was like over 5 million to FAFSA, like 2 their organization, and only of those phone calls went unanswered because they were just so overwhelmed with phone calls. It was interesting. She was coming today, really encouraging you to pull resources first, so that you don't spend the rest of your life with FAFSA. So on that note,
got so many going on today. There is a choir, there's soccer, there's so much going on. So if you need to review it, you can tell anybody that is not even that it's being recorded in there for everyone. Okay.
Like I said, my name's Abby. If you have any questions, you guys can just shout out to me. I really don't. It doesn't matter to me. Or if you want to raise your hand, if you want to talk to me personally after, I'm happy to help you with that too. But Invest Ed is a nonprofit, so we travel around the whole state of Indiana. We help all Hoosiers with the college planning process, specifically financial aid, so how to pay for it. So if you guys have any questions, just like she was saying, feel free to reach out at any point in the process. Even when your students go on to their post-secondary education, if they have any questions, feel free to give us a call. So this isn't just for like when they're in high school, it's in high school or whenever they get done with their post-secondary education. So, and during the FAFSA process, or like last year during FAFSA, we did have this, and we will get back to you. So, like, we'll get back to you within a business day, but we're always on the road, even at night. So, like, I'll be driving 2.5 hours back after this. So if you guys have even a question tonight, feel free to give us a call, and I'll probably answer my phone, unless I'm at the gas station. But these are the things we'll talk about. So there is a guidebook that you guys got, and that has majority of the internet. We will go over the FAFSA, what it will look like. Some of those screenshots will not be in the book. But again, if you have any questions through that FAFSA process, whenever you're doing it, feel us. And we come back here too. So I think we have one in April.
Yes.
So we'll be back here in April. The deadline. So the first one we'll talk about is different types of aid. So there are 2 types. There's the gift aid. That's the money we really like grants and scholarships. And then we have self, and that requires a lot of effort from us families, but there's still ways to pay for our education. That includes savings, employment throughout college, and then loans. And we'll kind of go through each of those now. So first is grants. In order to qualify for a grant, the FAFSA must be filed. And these get separated into federal and then state. So federal grants, those can be used anywhere across the United States that accepts federal grants. State grants can only be utilized here in the state of Indiana. So if your student is a 21st century scholar, if they go to Illinois or Kentucky or Florida, they're going to lose that state grant because it can only be used here in the state of Indiana. These are the 6 most common grants that we get questions about. There are plenty more. So if you go to our website or on page 7, our website's on there too. You can go to the federal and the state grants page. It will take you to see those different grants available for federal and state grants, and then kind of see how you are your qualified. For the federal grants, you can kind of see there's a wide range of money. Qualified for some, the amount of it. Pell grants. The Pell Grant probably has been around the longest, most well known. The Teach Grant, if your student wants to be a teacher, they can utilize this grant. They just need to be aware of requirements after they graduate. Because if they don't follow those requirements, those requirements until loans. And then if your student is a 21st century scholar, that pays for tuition and fees here in the state of Indiana. They had to be enrolled in 7th or 8th grade, so your counselor would know that information, task on scholar track that they have to complete before they graduate. And one is grant. The student isn't thinking about going to a 2 or 4 year degree. They can actually utilize this grant to get a certificate through next level jobs. Some of these certificates include like plumbing, web design, social. There's a whole bunch of tickets so you can get. Sometimes a few months, up to a year, just kind of depends on what certificate level they get that they're looking at. They would get it through like IU Tech, Bristol, Indiana Tech. The great thing about it is that so if your student decides to go to a college after that, some of these classes are kind of varied, so they may be able to utilize some of those people after that. So next, when your student goes to school, they're going to sit down with their advisor, and their advisor is going to say that they need to be a full-time student. So they're on the right what a full-time student is, 12 credit hours a semester or 24 credit hours a year. As you can see, each bubble will count as 1 year. So if your student is only taking 24 credit hours a year, it's going to take them 5 years to graduate with that bachelor's degree. What's so important about this is that typically grants are small off after 4 years. So that's why, if they're taking this full-time path, then their grants are not paid for that 5th year. That's why we really recommend the on-time path. We like to say 15 to finish or 30 credit hours a semester. If your student is taking 30 credit hours a semester, they'll graduate within those 4 years or 2 years for an associate's degree.
I wonder why they do that. That's so confusing because tell kids 12 credit hours is going full time, then it's going to take them 5 years to finish. But they don't always say that, I don't think.
Yeah. Remember, like in college, my dad, he always had 30 credit hours. Like that was your one thing in my mind. I always talked to my advisor about like I'm graduating in 4 years. Like he was very particular about that part, and I didn't really understand it yet, but until I saw this chart. So yeah, it is really important because if you want your student to graduate within 4 years, they really need to take those 30 credit hours a year. Even they could take like 12 one semester, 18 another semester. I even sprinkled some throughout summer. So that's always an option. Really making sure that they get those 30 credit hours a year. All right, the next type of gift aid is scholarships. So scholarships, they can be need-based. They can also be merit-based, so like based off of test scores, GPA, athletics, doing something they're good at, like writing. But they can also look at for scholarships. So here on the right, this is a pyramid of where they can look for scholarships. First is free national search sites. We really like to emphasize the word free because some scholarship websites do make them pay, but they shouldn't have to pay for scholarship websites to apply to scholarships. Some of these include scholarships.com, fastweb.com, that's like FASTWEB, Chegg.com. Those are some popular ones, but even if they type in free national search scholarship search sites on, sorry to say that a few times, free national scholarship search sites on Google, some of those that I listed will probably come up. But what they would do is they would just create a profile on these websites, answer some questions about themselves, like what grade they're in, different clubs and organizations that they're a part of, some other various questions, and then up would pop scholarships that they're matched to.
And we have a lot of this information on our counselor website under scholarships. So you can find the same thing there.
So really utilize that scholarship for the counselor webpage too with those free national ones. If you guys ever have a question if like one is legitimate too, you guys can always email us or call us and we can kind of help you research if it's a legitimate website too. But a lot of these free national search sites are going to be like, if your student is a twin, they can apply to the scholarship. If they're left-handed, they can apply to the scholarship. If they have red hair, they can apply to the scholarship. If there's just so many scholarships out there related to who they are. So next is the college or university level. So once your students decide where they're going to go onto that college or university website. They'll type in the search bar scholarships, and then up will pop scholarships related to students just going to that specific college or university. A lot of times we see students apply for scholarships, their senior year of high school, but as they get throughout college, they should go back and check those websites and reapply to certain scholarships or find other scholarships because they're going to be, narrowing down their major. They're going to be in different clubs, organizations on campus, so there'll be more scholarships as they go throughout college. So always encourage you to look back at those scholarships. Last is a local community level. So this is at the bottom of the pyramid. This is where they're going to find the bulk of their scholarships. Like the counselors just said, checking their website. I've even been on their website. Their website's amazing, lots of information. So just making sure your student is keeping up to date when those scholarships are due. Typically after those deadlines, they don't accept scholarships. And really those scholarships are going to be particular to students just here at Griffith and just here in Lake County. So, you know, there's a smaller pool of students that can apply to that. Businesses or employers, if your student works somewhere, having them check there for any scholarships. I worked somewhere all 4 years of high school, and during my senior year, I was able to apply to their scholarship, which was really amazing. Parents, grandparents, checking where you work, and then really just any businesses here in the community. I travel around the whole state of Indiana. I'm always looking for scholarships. Sometimes I'll see scholarship information like on a sign outside of their business. Sometimes I'll see like flyers whenever I'm in different businesses, or like coffee shops
Or even McDonald's. We had a couple kids a couple years get $20,000 scholarships through Kentucky Road. I don't know if they still have that one, but even the big Coca-Cola, Pepsi, they all have stuff like that too.
Really, like any business, if you look them up, they probably have a scholarship. Even my local community bank that I belong to sent an email to like every member of that community bank about a scholarship that students who belong to there can apply to. So it's really just about keeping your eyes open. I know sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, another email. But there may be good information like scholarships, especially when scholarships come out further into the year. So churches or civic organizations, so if you belong to a church, checking there for any scholarships. Civic organizations, we like to say the animal clubs, line of things like that. And we also have our own scholarship website, so that's also on page 7. If you go on there, we have over 6,000 scholarships on there currently. I actually had someone call in last week and they were like, you know any scholarships for first generation college students? It's like, I do not know, but I went onto our website, the scholarship search engine. I typed in first generation college student and 40 matches came up. So really encouraging your student, maybe there's something specific that they're looking for that matches who they are. Always encouraging them to come to our website, type it in, there could be some matches for them. We also have our own scholarship giveaway. So we give away 5 $1,000 scholarships every school year, starting in February. So we'll draw one name February through June. It is the easiest scholarship your student can apply for. So even if maybe they've heard our presentation last year, they can still apply for this year and so on. But they just need like their name, email, address, phone number, and graduation year. So there's no essay, no GPA requirement, super easy scholarship drawing. I was actually just at another school last week too. Someone was like, I won that scholarship last year. So it was actually really cool to just see another student at a school that I was at actually won it. So, all right, next we'll get to the self-help aid. So like I said, this requires a little bit more effort from us and our families. There's still ways to pay for their education. And first is just the whole point of this slide is just start creating a plan for how to save for their education if you haven't already. So there are some college savings plans on here. If you want to enroll in them, Google them or talk to a financial advisor. But really just sitting down with your student, discussing with them, maybe you know they have a birthday coming up or they have the holidays are coming up, maybe they're getting money for that, encouraging them to set that aside. Maybe they have a job, getting 10, 15, 20%. Maybe if they save 10%, you save 5%. But really just creating a plan for that. Any money saved is money that does not have to be borrowed. Even $500 could be for books, $1,000 for a laptop. So just really creating a plan about how to save for their education if you haven't already. Also, they say students who have a job throughout college actually have better time management skills. Not only that, they're earning money for college, they're lifting their student loan debt. they're getting job interview experience, they're networking with people, creating references. So great idea to have a job throughout college, but there are some options under here. First is federal work study. So if your student qualifies through the FAFSA, they would work on camp, like have an on-campus job and pay for some of their tuition. So the hours vary depending on the campus. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes 10. Anywhere between there, they typically work on campus and then get tuition paid. We really recommend anyone who gets federal work study to take that. But that's an option again if you're eligible for through FAFSA. Next is internships. Internships give them real world experience in their major and can also potentially be a way that they can pay for their education too. I had 2 internships throughout college. My first one was not paid, but I did have a part-time job. So my non-paid internship was like 5 to 10 additional hours a week. But what that did for me was give me a really great reference to get a paid internship the following semester. So I would quit that part-time job, just focus on my internship, help pay for some of my college expenses. So sometimes your students kind of have to wiggle their way through internships, but they're a really great opportunity. They even gave me a really great reference for my first job out of college. All right, last about loans last because we really want this to be your last option. We want you to utilize the grants, scholarships, savings, working throughout college before you get to this process. But there are 3 options. So you can kind of see what the rates and fees are for the federal direct loans and for the plus loan. But for the federal direct loan, that would be in your student's name. So as soon as they file FAFSA, they're automatically eligible for these. The first year they would get $5,500, second year $6,500, and the last 2 years $7,500. They don't have to utilize all of it if they don't need to. If they only need $1,000, I'll encourage them to use $1,000. There's federal direct plus loan that's in the parent's name. So typically all parents are eligible for this, but again, you would be taking this out for your student, and it's only in your name. The private loan, that's where you're kind of shopping around, seeing your best rate, your best option. So typically students, they need co-signers for this just because they don't have credit or credit history when they first exit high school. But if you guys ever get to this process and you need any help or you need any clarification on this, because this will probably be the last process for you, we're happy to help you. You can give us a call and we'll walk you through it. All right, next we'll talk about the first steps of FAFSA. So FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It's an annual application, so every year that your student is going to be going to school, they'll need to fill this out, starting with their senior year. It determines any funds for federal, state, and even institutional funds. So if your student is getting like an academic or athletic scholarship, they'll still need to file FAFSA in order to get that. And then it calculates something called a Student Aid Index or an SAI. So the student will fill out the FAFSA, it will take their income and assets, and then the parent will fill out the FAFSA, it will take their income and assets, and then it creates the SAI. Your student is going to list the colleges on their FAFSA form. The colleges that they list will list their SAI, and then the colleges will get back a financial aid package. And I will show you a financial aid package at the end of this presentation. So the first step is by creating an FSA ID. An FSA ID is just a basic username, password for like any kind of website that we typically use. It is connected to your name, your birthday, and your social. So both the student and, I don't know how you guys feel about being called contributors, but that's what you're called on the FAFSA form. So contributors or parents will also need an FSA ID. Parents, if you've already had another student go through the FAFSA process, you may already have an FSA ID. If you've been through school yourself, you also may have an FSA ID. So you may not need to recreate one. You may just have to figure out what your login information is.
And they can do that now. They don't have to wait until the FAFSA opens. They can create an ID now.
So after the presentation, I actually walk around and help you guys create FSA IDs. Because this process does take 1 to 4 days for your company to verify And the problem is that you cannot create an FFA and fill out the FAFSA all the same day. So really, if you go ahead and make your FSA ID, or if you already have an account, I would encourage you just to make sure that you can log in. Because like she said last year, there were so many phone calls coming into those lines and out of your account. Which there's some you try to find your account to process that process. I would just encourage you to do it now before the FAFSA actually opens if you already have an account.
Quick question on that. I know you said the student needs and I needs and I needs. Did it two separate applications as well, or it's still just one since someone else has them?
So yes, you would both have to create an FSA separately, since it's your name, your social, and your birthday. But it is like the same process. So there's a form that I gave you guys too. And that blue form that will be step by step on how to create the FSA ID. And like I said, I'll be around afterwards. But you and your student will both do the same process, just with your own information.
But it's one fax for the student.
Yes.
For the house.
We'll talk about FAFSA here in a second, but just as far as your FSA ID, both need one.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here's an overview of the FAFSA. It was supposed to open October 1st, so they're saying that it will be open in phases. But December 1st is the opening date fully to every single person. We're not sure what the phase October 1st and December 1st. It could mean that they asked you to do a test on. I don't know if anyone heard any horror stories last year about FAFSA. She kind of told me one, but
We'll not talk about that anymore.
it was really crazy. So, if you want to keep your sanity, I would probably just wait till December 1st, in my opinion. But if you'd like to be part of those test groups, or if they ask you, or if your institution has access to it, then yeah. But December 1st is the big opening date for every single person. So, you will use tax information in 2023 for both the student and the parent. And then the state of Indiana deadline is April 15th. Some colleges do have different deadlines, so especially if they're going out of state, you want to check their deadline. Some colleges here in the state of Indiana also have a different deadline. Usually you can just Google it, what their FAFSA deadline is, but the state of Indiana priority deadline is April 15th though. So we'll go over some screenshots of what the FAFSA is going to look like and kind of how to get started on it, even though it's not open right now. Give you kind of a little heads up on it. So it'll be the same website that you're using to create your FSA ID, studentaid.gov. It will look like this screen here on the right. I typically recommend the student starts the FAFSA because that's typically the easiest way to do it. So have your student log in using their FSA ID. They'll select on the FAFSA that they're a student, and then there'll be something that they'll read. So there'll be some like videos, some reading. It takes usually like an hour to do that. So if you can read it, and otherwise you can just kind of skip through those. They'll go ahead and confirm their information, making sure their name, birthday, social, address, all those good things are correct. And then they'll provide consent for the IRS to bring over any tax information. Even if your student didn't work in 2023, still have them provide consent, and then the IRS will see that there's no tax information and allow them to. So the students part is 5 sections. They'll just start out by selecting what grade level they'll be in college. They should always select first year student, even if they're coming in with credit. We're still going to be a first year student in college. They'll go through some questions. So in some circumstances, they may be an independent student. So here on the left, they said they will be considered an independent student, not needing parent information. But here on the right, I know those are the red numbers. So if since 13, your student was an orphan, if since 13 they were ever work, if since 13 they were in foster care, if they're legal, advanced parent minor, and if they've ever had a legal guardian for their parent. Those would be ways that they would be considered a student not needing parent information. And if there's any special circumstances, I'm happy to talk with you guys afterwards about those. and kind of help you to see if you're considered an independent student.
Abby, every year we have one or two students who request the wrong year. They fill out the application for this school. It says 24, 25 instead of everyone needs to know it's for next year when they go to college, 25, 26. So every year it seems like we have one or two students that do the wrong one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I just want to be careful that everyone knows 25, 26.
yes, for sure. So the only FAFSA website right now is 24, 25. They don't need to fill that one out because they're not going to be in years. They need to make sure that they're filling out the 25, 26 form, and that will not be fully available until December 1st. And then when December 1st hits, that will be like the first form on the website. So even if they see a form on there, it's not in yet until December 1st. But yes, if you guys have any questions about these personal circumstances, I'm happy to help. All right, so this was probably the number one missed question on FAFSA last year, and students had to wait months and months and months to fix this. So right here, it's asking if the student's parents are unwilling to provide their information. They really want to make sure that they put no, that they are willing to provide their information. So it's kind of like a double negative question. And after this, it should ask for the parent information. Like they should get a screen like this after that question. So if they don't get a screen to invite their parent after this question, then they need to go back and make sure that they select no. So it says, are the parents unwilling to provide information? They want to make sure they select no. If they select yes here, then it means that the student would not be eligible for grants or scholarships. They would only be eligible for unsubsidized loans. So you may be wondering which parents are listed on the FAFSA. If the parents are married or they're not married and they live together, then both parents are listed on the FAFSA. If the parents are divorced or separated, they're not married together, then it would be which parent provided the most financial support to them in the past 12 months. So this includes their home that they live in, their clothing, their food, everything. So whatever parent provided the most financial support to them in the past 12 months. If it's like 50-50, you can't determine it. Both parents have provided the same amount of support. They both live in their house 50-50, then it would be which parent has the greater income and greater assets. So after you're able to determine who that parent is, if that parent is single, you're the only parent listed on the FAFSA. If that parent is remarried, then and step parent are listed on it. So again, after this question, it will kind of go through these questions that I just stated too with you. Oh, sorry, I didn't know I did that. I do not know how to take that off. So then after it asks them the same questions I just went over with you, it will have them invite the parent. So over there, all the information will need to be the same. So sometimes it will say like this information does not match. If the information does not match, the student needs to be on the parent account to see what exactly it looks like. Even if like you have a nickname and the student's putting in your nickname, but your full legal name is on your account, it's not going to allow them to send that because it has to look exactly like the parent account. Next, the student will pick what high school they're graduating from, and then it will go to some financial questions. So it will look at the student's tax information. Any questions it has, it will ask here. Not every single student will have the same questions. These are typically ones that we see. Some will need manual entry, so this will not allow you to continue unless you put a number in there. So if it's 0 for the student, you'll just put in 0. These are some other questions that I may ask the student, like cash checking and savings. They can add that up and put that in there. If they have a business or investment arm, typically students don't, so they just put 0 in there. And then any net worth of investments. And again, that didn't apply to them. They just put 0 in there also. Then it will ask them for their colleges. They can list up to 20. So we feel like 20 is kind of a lot, so maybe have them start narrowing it down. But again, list up to 20. We always encourage them to at least put a school from Indiana, just in case they were eligible for a state grant. They want to know that without putting a school from the state of Indiana. And they can always update me. So maybe in spring semester, like, oh my gosh, actually I want to stay home and they definitely can go back on, edit that information, add that school that they're thinking about going to now. They can also remove schools if they decide, you know, that's not where I want to go, take that school off of here. Then they will review it, they'll sign it, submit it. A lot of people were confused last year because they're like, oh my gosh, where is our signature? But really your FSA ID is your signature, so that's your login information since it's connected to your social. So you really only have to hit this checkbox and then hit submit, and that's the student signature. Then it will tell any next steps. The form is not completed until both the student and the parent submit it. So if the student starts it, then the parent submits it, and it will not be submitted until the student submits their part too. Maybe the parent starts it, when the student submits it, and it's just both parts have to be submitted in order for it to be fully submitted. But it will just tell you the next steps and like if the parent needs to still fill it out or not. So next we'll go to the fun part, the parent information. So lucky for you guys, it's actually only 3 sections, not 5, so okay. But you'll receive a email kind of like that to the right. It'll just say help complete your student's names form. You'll hit login, and then you're gonna log in using your FSA ID that you made also with your own information. You'll receive like a little note here on your dashboard. It will say help complete their FAFSA form. You'll accept the invitation and you'll go ahead and kind of do the same thing where you'll confirm your information and make sure your name, social, address, birthday, all those good things are correct. And then you'll also bring over any tax information. It will also ask you about like your marital status. It will ask you about your tax filing status, the number in your family. So maybe if your family size has changed since 2023, you can actually manually fix that here. And then it will also ask you how many are in college. And next is about your financials. So you will never include the home that you live in or your retirement. These are typically the questions that we see. Like I said, everybody is different based on their tax information, but these are typically the questions that we see. So we'll go over a couple of these. Child support received, that would be for the last calendar year. So if you are filling this out in December, you will need it how much child support was received in 2023. If you were filling this out in January, you'll need how much child support was received in 2024, just because it's the last full calendar year. Also, we'll have you add up your cash checking and savings here. And then if you have a business or investment farm, you'll also find what that net worth of that investment farm or business is, and you'll say that in there. And then if you have a 529 for your student, you'll also have to input that here. Let's say 529 for each student. You only need to put in the 529 for student that you're filling out the FAFSA for. Next, it will ask you if you are married. It will ask you who your other spouse is. You'll input their information. If you guys filled out taxes jointly in 2023, you only need to input the information. If you guys file taxes separately, then it will actually send an invite to your spouse to fill out their FAFSA form.
So if you're married, you can be all under one address.
If you file
One
taxes
ID.
jointly.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you file taxes jointly, only one parent needs an FSA ID. And then it just asks for their information on your information, which is that another person's on the tax information. If you file separately, both parents need an FSA ID and fill out FAFSA. So you should get a congratulations page once it's fully submitted. And then, before that, you'll actually sign and submit it just like they did. And then you should get a page that says fill out. But if the student still needs to fill it out, it will tell you that you're almost there. So just make sure that you get a congratulations page. Then we'll talk about after you submit, what to do. So The student will be the only one to be able to see the FAFSA submission summary. You will not be able to see this on the parent account. What it will do, it will go over any eligibility that the student may have. This is only federal, so you will not see state information on here. You will not see particular college information on here, just federal. So we'll tell you about the federal Pell Grant if they're eligible for that, or if they may be eligible for it. Loans and then federal work study if you may be eligible for that too. But you can always check the FAFSA form answers on here. So if you have any questions, like if you want to see what the answers were, you can go back on here and review those. Any next steps, you want to make sure that you correct the errors. If the schools have any questions, they're going to reach out to your student via email. So you want to make sure that your student's keeping on track of their emails, checking them, and if the schools have any individual like documents or questions, they'll reach out to your student to make sure that the student is responding. Maybe they need a copy of the for additional paperwork, make sure that they're keeping up to date on that. But if you're also, if the student needs to update their schools on here, they can go ahead and do this on the FAFSA submission summary too. So maybe what happened in 2023 is not what's happening currently. A few of those are here on the screen where there could be a special circumstance. You could talk to the financial aid offices individually. It's not guaranteed that they can do anything about it, but it's a possibility. So some of them are like a change in employment. Maybe there's medical bills not covered by insurance. Down in Indianapolis, there was a tornado last year. So maybe like a natural disaster or something like that. But if there's anything, you can talk to the individual financial aid offices. Like I said, it's not a promise, but it is potentially something you could do if maybe something has changed. That's your tax information. So your student's going to receive financial aid offers in these individual schools. It is going to depend on when the student submits their FAFSA and then also the size of the school. So they're a smaller school, they can take a shorter amount of time to get back to their student. They're a larger school, it take a longer time to get back to them. But each offer letter is going to outline the total cost of attendance, any financial aid amounts, and then the remaining balance. So it'll tell you what the remaining balance is and options to repay that. And then just make sure that you're reviewing it. If you have any questions, reaching out to those financial aid offices to ask them. But here's an example of a financial aid offer. So you'll see above the blue, that's the total cost of attendance. It will take tuition and fees and housing and food. Those are exact costs for that college or university. Then there's books and supplies, transportation, miscellaneous expenses. Those are estimated costs for that college or university. So the total cost of attendance is here in blue, $26,200. And then there's some financial aid offers. So the Pell Grant is a federal grant, there's a state grant, and then also an institutional scholarship. So a scholarship from that college or university. There's also a federal work study. That's where they're working on campus, getting some of that tuition paid. And then 2 loans, subsidized, which means the interest does not start until after college, and unsubsidized means that the interest starts as soon as they take that loan. So there, the total financial aid amount in green is $19,500, and in the red is the remaining balance of $6,700. So that's where you and your families have to decide how to pay for that. Maybe your student gets $5,000 of outside scholarships through the national search sites, college or university level, through the local or community level. They get $5,000 of now they're only worried about $1,700, a little bit more manageable. Otherwise, you'll have to do savings, maybe making a payment plan with that college or university. Then last would be outside private loans. Like I said, we're always here. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me here or call us or email us. This is how to create your FSA ID. So this is what we'll do today, and I'll be around to help you. But the red form is where you can write down your information for both the student and the parent. I just find that's a really great tool because your student will need this every single year to log into their information. So it's a good way to keep it all together. Our social media, so you can see when we're coming back, and then our number and email.
All of those forms, the counselors met with your students individually over the past month. enrolled them with scholarships and scholarship information, and gave them all of them forms that Abby just had on the screen. So ask them for that folder. There's a lot of good information in there. All of those we gave them. So all of that should be in there too.
Does anyone have any questions for the group? Okay. Well, I will be around to help, if you guys wanna go to studentaid.aid, and.
That's our password. If you want to go ahead and create your AID, that's our password to get on the